What's up, you chinchillarillas? We talking fatherhood this week. Females with that loot. Stepdaddy etiquette. We got thick urine and depression on the call sheet. A little bit of follow-up on the female breadwinners. And did you know that I once slept in a McDonald's ball pit? Yep, when I first moved to Los Angeles, overnight, 3 nights in a row, with an Asian gentleman. Yep, that I didn't even know. Possibly Korean. Jury's still out. Get up to get down. Beinvenidos, este fin de semana pasado. This past weekend.
Celebrate living.
Celebrate living.
Celebrate misery. You know that soon we're gonna die.
You know that soon we're gonna die. Sad.
Let's have some fun while we all die.
But let's have some fun while we all die.
Celebrate dark days.
That is the Spencer Growl Band, and I'll put a link to that on my YouTube where you can catch that in full. Happy Monday to you guys. I'm happy to be here with you guys. It is Monday, June 19th, and it's actually a birth date of my grandmother and my sister. Both of them are, my sister's alive, and my grandmother is dead. She's gone. She loved raccoons, and she collected a lot of ceramic squirrels and ceramic frogs. And she was an older lady, and something happened to her, and then she died. But I'm happy to be here with you guys today. I'm alive. You're alive. Sorry to start out on that dark note, but sometimes life can be a little bit of a dark note. We're going to keep it happy today. I appreciate you guys' time. This is this past weekend, and we are here. I had a wild dream last night. And I got some good rest this weekend because I needed some rest. Sometimes I find myself caught up in sleep, and I'm just like a little resting bear. And I wish sometimes that I kept a chart of when I was resting, throughout my history and when I was awake, because I would have a better idea if I'm on some sort of a resting cycle, if I hibernate a little bit more in certain times. And I hit a bit of a rest streak this weekend and caught me a rest. And I enjoyed it. I actually had a wild dream that I was muling, that I was a money mule. And a money mule, mules are people that hide stuff in their butts or anus, that hide things inside of between their butt cheeks. If they're really strong, mules can, these are humans that hide stuff. They can just grip it between their butts and hold something. But if not, then they have to put it inside of their butts, past like the entry area. And that's very bizarre. And those are a lot of basic mules, and I'm kind of a weaker mule, at least I was in this dream. And I was hiding money. I was hiding money inside of my butt, rolls of coins. And I had to basically pay rent. I was paying rent for a family of illegal aliens. This is a dream sequence. And I had to kind of sneak into this area and sort of, this is going to sound wiry, I guess, but I had to defecate into these big dung banks. And then they had a man in there with a rake, and he was raking the money out, raking the rolls of coins out, and helping this family pay their rent. So there was a lot going on, really, I guess, in my subconscious. Well, I just had to share that with you guys. Happy Father's Day. Happy belated Father's Day. I know we have a lot of male listeners and a lot of good men out there who are taking care of children, and some of these children are yours and some of these children are not. There's some other man's child. And I want to give a round of applause to those men right now and commend you if you're a father. And that can come across a lot of ways to a child, It can come across where you are just their provider. And you might think that, oh, I'm just a provider for this child if it's a stepchild, but that goes a long way. And it may take a while for that child for that to resonate with that child. I mean, I remember a man took me in when I was 14, and he let me live with him and his family. And there was nothing sensual. It was all on the up and up and positive. And I was still a bad, wild child, but he provided a structure for me. And years later, we are great friends, and I consider him a great example in my life, even though at the time I didn't always recognize it. So I just want to commend the stepdads out there who are doing that type of behavior and who are, providing a comfortable atmosphere where a young person can just feel comfortable enough to learn about themselves, because that's huge. Because prior to that, I didn't have that in my own personal existence. And I know there's a lot of men out there doing that. Because it's easy to be a father. I mean, it's easy to create a baby. I mean, if you just think of it, it's just a bust of a nut. I mean, it's just that moment between I'm going to hold on to this nut and that moment where I'm going to go on and bust this nut. And that's the easy part, because you could have a man with no legs out there and a bad attitude could still be busting nuts everywhere and making children, That's a lot of children that potentially could be out there. And that immediately gets you to dad status. If you put that into an ovary or throw that onto an egg of a lady, you're immediately at fatherhood. And that's wild, to think that there's not more of a law against nut use is pretty baffling to me. I almost felt like, and I talked about this in my Netflix special at the end, where they should almost take a child's nuts off of them. They circumcise children, and I think they take the wrong part. They're taking all this extra skin. They're taking all this extra epidermis around the cock top, and they're, that turtleneck, because your penis will start turtlenecking around the top if you are natural, and they cut that off. But I think they should take the nuts, give them back to you once you have a degree, once you have graduated school, once you have done something to deserve the ability to create another. Because we're just letting any willy-nilly or any nilly-willy really run around with active skeet. And that, to me, I don't think that that's behooving us anymore. I think that your nuts and your ability to, spray out a family should be something you earn, an achievement. And that's a way that I would like to see us evolve biologically. I got me some coffee here, guys. But could you imagine if all of our seed grew up? I mean, I personally, myself, have probably, I'm trying to think, if I've been masturbating I'm 37, I've been masturbating for probably 25 years safely. And I would say 300 sprays a year probably safely. That's 7,500 sprays. And if all of that grew up, and that's just me alone, that's 7,500 children, that could potentially be out there. So I'm amazed that we don't get a handle on more of this human seed, and then it's not more of a prized possession, because we're spraying it out like it's nothing. We're giving it away. A lot of men are. So I think it's commendable when a man actually has a child, gets it to, full creation, and then cares about it and builds it up. And if you're a man out there who has a child that they're not in touch with right now because that kid is in their teens or late teens or something, sometimes I think it's probably just about patience. If I could dig back into my child's side and think about a father figure or parents, sometimes you just need it's just patience. So I commend you men that are out there fathering children, raising children, stepfathering. Stepfathering is a very underestimated occupation, very undervalued in America, Anybody really can create a child, some offspring. But to get out there and take care of someone else's child just because you solely know that that kid needs it, that's beautiful. And I commend you, men, that do that. That's a beautiful thing, man. And stepfather, usually they have a mustache. They want to grow that hair out above their lip. And I respect that too. That's a beautiful thing. People ask me a lot why you're growing your hair out, because I got this beautiful, and I say I'm not even growing it. God is growing this. The Lord is growing this beauty off the back of my skull. I'm just the sharecropper. I'm out here farming. I'm out here tending to the crop. And that's what I do. And people say, well, it looks nice. And I say, well, I'm a good farmer. That's what I tell them, because I believe that. But happy Father's Day. I hope everyone had a good Father's Day, if they did have one, and that you were able to reach out to your father, or your children reached out to you and express their care, concern, And if you got a kid too that's really young, I also want to say, I know it's tricky to spank them now or to beat them, but throw it on them every now and then, something light, a reminder. Even if you just have to play an old video of the past, play some Beatles or something and beat them lightly. Something that just reminds them who's in control. Because every man, I think if they can live and get to comfortable feeling, they can create a family, and it's got to be pretty beautiful to do all that. So I commend you fathers out there, and I hope you live long and prosperous lives. We shall see. We shall see. What else did I want to tell you guys about that? I had one other thought about fatherhood. My father was so old. I put a picture of him up on my Instagram, and that's just Theo Vaughn, if you want to check it out, of when I was a baby, an inkling, a tall sperm, if you will, even. And my father was in his young 70s at that point, and we didn't do too much. I remember playing on his walker in our yard, and just remember his breath smelled like beer, and that he had a lot of change in his pockets that would jingle often, and he whistled a lot. And it's little things like that that I really treasure and value when I think of my own personal father. I want to tell you guys, I know I've been thinking about the Patreon or Patreon. I've been talking about it. I'd love to know your thoughts on it. I'm a little, to be honest, I'll be, just 100% transparent. I'm a little nervous about putting it out there and just having it be this thing where, where I feel like there's an extra pressure to create something every month, but there's not that many people that are interested in supporting it, because it's not something you guys should have to take on either. But I'd love to just know your thoughts on Patreon or Patreon, if you've done it with other podcasts, and how you feel about it, and just be honest with me. Put your 2 cents out there. You can put it in the YouTube comments. As well, if you're listening on iTunes, go ahead and subscribe. Drop a comment, a rating, something. Tell your friends about the podcast so we can keep it going and we can keep the excitement building. And I'm grateful to you guys. I have some dates coming up. I'm going to tell you right now. I will be in New York City this weekend, Friday and Saturday night at Gotham Comedy Club. Thursday, I got a surprise show I'm doing with The Chive, and that's a website that's about, they talk about titties and humor, basically titties and humor and beautiful. God, some of the nipples on that site, will just lead me straight to a dirty place on the internet. But they have that. I'll be working with them, and that's at Stand Up Live this Thursday in Phoenix. What else? After that, I'll be in Nashville coming up. I'll be in Stark County, Illinois coming up. I've got dates also in Cleveland. Those are on the website now. You can check those out. Where else? Anywhere else super exciting? Vegas and the Improv in Addison, Texas, Austin, and Brea Improv. That's all later this year. You can get those dates at theovon.com/tour. But yeah, I hope everybody had a good Father's Day. My weekend was pretty calm. When I think about this past weekend, it was pretty calm. I spent some time with Simon Rex. Some of you guys know him, Dirt Nasty, that white rapper. And he's got a new series called Typical Rick with him and Nick Swartzen. And man, Nick makes me laugh, man. And their series makes me laugh. If you haven't seen Typical Rick, go check it out. Those guys do a really good job. That's on Comedy Central Digital. And you can check that out right there. But let me know what you think of Patreon or Patreon. Just let me know your thoughts. I want to know. I want to know what you're thinking. I'm going to get quickly into some questions here. We had a lot of people hit the hotline with some comments, some thoughts. And that number, if you don't have it yet, I'm going to tell it to you right now, is 985 664 9503. 985 664 9503. Hit the hotline. Let me know what your struggles are, your thoughts, your feelings. Put something out there. Put something out there we can work with together, so we can keep the good vibe that's going on here. We're getting late into June. A lot going on. Summer solstice is this week, so that means it'll be the longest day of the year. So spend time with people that you care about, because it's going to be a long day. Just make sure you plan ahead a little bit, a lot of sunlight. So it's a good day to get your work done and maybe catch a sunset or do something special with somebody that you enjoy. I'm going to tap into some of these calls. People hit the hotline, and you can text the hotline as well. You can just text it. You can text an issue in if you have it, and I'm going to tap into one right now. This one is from Columbia, South Carolina. And I used to go to college over there in South Carolina. I don't know if some of you guys know that or not, at the College of Charleston. Heavily enjoyed myself over there. A lot of ghosts in that area too. If you like ghosts or the dead, there's a lot of them there, and they're milling around. But this is Riley from Columbia, South Carolina. Love your podcast. You make people laugh, and love your podcast. You make people laugh, and that is a gift from the universe. I have a great woman, this gentleman is telling me, and relationship. But in the past, I've struggled with the thought of marriage and being fully committed to another human. I come from a family where divorce is everywhere. What are your thoughts on commitment and ways to stay focused in a committed relationship? Well, I'm glad you asked this, Riley. I really am. Because I'm going to just drop my feelings. One, commitment scares me, brother. It scares me. I've always been scared of it. In a relationship, it scares me. Now, if I think about having children and being committed to those children and making sure they're clean and their hearts are good, I feel like I have that in me. I would be committed to my children. And why, I guess, would I be committed to them? Just because I just don't question it. It's not a question, But when it comes to commitment to a woman, I guess the first thing that hits me is that it's growing up. And part of me just doesn't want to do that sometimes. I have this issue with it. I feel like because commitment, you feel like, as a man, I feel like anyway, that I'm heading towards marriage or towards a family. And a lot of times when you don't feel like your own childhood, this is real to me, that I don't feel like my own childhood was complete. And I hated my childhood, to be honest with you. We had some exciting moments that I'm able to reflect on now and look back on, but I hated being a kid. It was uncomfortable. I didn't have a lot of influences that made me feel good. And so by committing now into a relationship, I feel like my childhood would be ending, I feel like my childhood would be, it would be over. If I commit now, that I'm adulting so much that my ability to even, to complete that childhood is gone. Whatever I still needed to do, even if I'm not doing anything, that my ability to continue to work on that childhood or to have a good childhood is over. So that's, I guess, kind of a scary feeling that troubles me with commitment. Because I know that once I get locked into a lady, that my youth is over, at that point. And I think that that's one of the reasons why I personally, Riley, have trouble with commitment. Because I just feel that heavy pressure that, oh man, your youth is done, man. Your childhood's done. Whatever you felt like or were uneven about or things you were holding on, that's all has to go away now, because now you're going to be headed towards focusing on somebody else. And that's something that really scares me. I think that's one of the biggest reasons that I have commitment issues, Let me think. A second reason is probably because I'm afraid not to do something alone. Most of my life I've done things by myself. I don't know. I think I got used to being by myself when I was young, used to completing tasks by myself or even not completing them. At least then there was no other responsibility, to another person. It all rested on me. And I feel like by joining up with somebody that's going to stop, commitment means that I'm not doing this alone anymore. And sometimes I feel like I've been alone so long in my own mind and heart that I don't want to admit that I need somebody else or that I would be better off with someone else. And by getting into a committed relationship, for me, I guess part of me feels like I'd be doing that. I'd be admitting that I'm not good enough alone. And also I struggle with feeling that need. I struggle with feeling the real need to have someone else around because I just wasn't used to it. I haven't been used to it. It's gotten better as I've gotten older here recently. But it's tough for me to feel that need. It's tough for me to feel it. I can say it, I can think it, but to really feel it, because I think I've suppressed that so long to need someone else that it's not a comfortable feeling for me. So that'll probably take some work in that area for me personally to feel those things. And that's self work that I need to get into, because that's important stuff. Because that's, without some commitment at some point that I'm going to be alone. And I can tell you that figuring out why you feel that way is probably pretty freeing, because where I find myself today is not knowing why I feel the ways that I feel. And that's scary, man. When I don't know why I feel a certain way, like I can feel it, but I just don't know why. It doesn't resonate to my brain very well. And that's scary because then the issue is that I just can't understand my feelings. I'm not good at understanding my own feelings. And that's kind of scary at my age. And it's scary to think that I've put off for a long time, getting some help in those areas so that I can understand some of those feelings. For someone to be like, well, why do you feel like that? And for me to be so out of touch with my feelings that I don't know the answer, I mean, it's not cool anymore, I think for a long time it was cool, but it's tough to admit that it's just not cool anymore. It's not cool for me at my age to still be in that environment. And the third reason I'll say, Riley, is commitment for me is since I always felt like I took care of myself emotionally and that I never got any reward for that. Even though there were other people that helped me and that raised me, for some reason in my mind and heart, there was always this feeling that I was doing it all by myself. I think just some of that loneliness I felt inside, that's how it manifested itself. And there's probably a lot of truth. Most of my youth felt more like surviving than it did living or thriving. So the fact that I never felt any reward for that, it makes me want to hold on to my loneliness or my singularity a little bit out of spite, if that makes any sense, Now, spite against whom? I don't know. That's the thing. It's like I'm just holding this spite, but there's no one really that I'm holding it against. Because the only person that's suffering by me having this anger is me at this point, So I'm glad you asked this, man, because it's something that I've been thinking about a lot because I have trouble getting close to other people. And I think those are some of the reasons why. I don't know if any of that helps or any of that answers some of your question, but I do appreciate you reaching out and asking about commitment because it helps me to be able to think of some of my thoughts. And I'd love to know if some of you men are struggling with commitment out there, or ladies. I've had some calls from some ladies. I think men might be shy to call. But we're not perfect creatures. And one thing about the times we're in right now, I think it's almost a blessing in a way where there's so many blurred lines. And we've talked about this a little bit and females being the breadwinners. And it's kind of a unique time for men to be able to share their feelings. And that stuff, some of that stuff sounds gay as hell, and that sort of thing. You can say that. But dude, it's better than running around and not knowing what your feelings are. And that's where I've spent a lot of my life. And it's one of the reasons why I like having this past weekend, because some of us are able to call and share questions and thoughts and concerns on all of this, man. Because I get a lot of calls too that aren't people that have questions, that just want to say something and just want to share. And I'm grateful for those. Also, let's take another caller, man. This is Chris from Las Vegas, I believe. And he's just texting in. This is another text one. I'll just read this one. Oh, no, this is Chris from Utah. Theo, I love the show. I just wanted to get your advice on kind of a weird fear or phobia that I have of homeless people. Like, I try to help out in kitchens. I'm guessing he's saying homeless kitchens and serving places like that, soup and, light fare, chowder, actually probably heavy fare meatloafs. But if I walk by the homeless in downtown Salt Lake City, I get really nervous. I don't know why. I think maybe they might rob me or stab me or something. Just wondering if you've been able to get past some kind of phobia. It's a good question. When I was young, I had this heavy phobia of the dark. Very scared of the dark and of going to sleep at night. And I've said before, I thought animals were going to get me. I used to urinate in a circle around my bed. I used to push my bed off the wall, and then I would urinate in a big circle because I had heard somewhere that animals wouldn't go where there was other animals' urine. And I knew I wasn't an animal, but I just thought in my young brain that they would, get my scent and be scared. Crows, I was also very scared of crows. I remember putting a lot of yarn up in the air with jingle bells on them, on the on the thread, and thinking a crow would hit that if they came in to get me. I would lay down at night. I've talked about this on stage, and put jingle bells on top of my blanket, or set them on my clavicles, or where there was a place in my chest or something that could hold them. And I would fall asleep like that real still and hope that they would wake me up if they went off, if something happened. I remember having to look through every nook and cranny at every angle. I had to start in the closets and work my way out, and then lean something against one closet door and then do the other closet door just to make sure there was nothing around. So I had a heavy fear growing up, a lot of fear there, a lot of bedwetting. And I don't have any shame for it. I mean, I think I did for a long time, but now I'm just like, I feel pretty fortunate that I made it through it. Feel some of those things, But as far as the homeless go, I say trust your instincts. That's what I usually do with the homeless, because I don't recommend engaging with the homeless. There are people out there who are social workers who this is their job. That is their life desire. If you feel that, then yes, that's amazing. Go get it done. But if you're just walking down the street and it's 11 p.m. and suddenly you got this thing where you think you're a social worker, I'd back off that instinct, because that's probably incorrect. Because also, do you think that the homeless want a scared people that's helping them? Do you think the homeless want some easily spooked mook, spooning out their precious soup, who, one wrong sound in the distance is going to, freak out and sling chowder all over everybody? No, probably not. So by being so scared and odd, you're probably really spooking them. And the homeless, I'll say probably, Chris from Utah, they're not for you. And that's another thing we got to realize sometimes. It doesn't make you a bad person if you're not overly helping the homeless. Not everyone is for everyone. I see Orthodox Jewish people in LA. They take no interest in me. And I'm like, you know what? Do we have anything in common? Maybe a little bit of religion, but outside of that, no. I don't engage, so I don't engage. I see two dogs attacking a man. The man looks like he's going to survive. What am I going to do if I show up? So sometimes it's just about realizing that a situation isn't for you, that there's somebody better fit for that. Because I've seen two dogs fighting a man in a park. And that's not my shit, man. That's not my shit, I'm just not about that world. I don't know. What am I going to do? Karate? No, so I'm out. So you got to know where to engage, man. I think you need to, stand tall and be proud and be affectionate if you feel that there needs to be that affection. If there's an opportunity for you to share some money, some water, some food, do that. But don't mill around, skeeting around, Boo Radley and around the concrete. You're going to scare the homeless, But not everyone is for everyone. Like if I see an angry feminist, who's, making flammable cocks or something in her parents' basement, which are probably hard-working mustache stepfather and mother probably busting their asses to put a roof over her head. I don't intervene in that. There's nothing that I'm going to be. It's just not everything's for everyone. What am I going to say to this girl? Nothing. She's angry at men right now at this point. And I'm not saying that's every feminist or every, pro-womanhood person, but, they got some wild cats out there. And I'll tell you this, couple of facts about the homeless. If you want to get upset about the condition of the homeless, throw some darts at a Ronald Reagan poster. Okay? Because that beautifully coiffed, Ronald Reagan was the original Donald Trump, man. Look it up. And I loved Ronald Reagan. I was a Reaganite. He's the kind of a political Michael Landon. There's a story out there on the internet where, because Ronald Reagan was an actor. And there was a story on the internet where he allegedly, when he won the presidency, he said he only wanted to do presidenting about 5 hours a day. That he was going to do other stuff in the evening. And he would shut down at 6:30 p.m., I believe, or 7:30 p.m. You can look this up. And I don't know if this is fake news because I don't know what's real out there anymore. But he would shut it down. And him and Sweet Nance, he had that piece of ass, his lady, would watch television and enjoy their lives a little bit. And I like that. That's one of the things that I loved about Ronald Reagan. And he's beloved by millions, billions maybe. But I'll say this, Sweet Ronnie put the homeless, he shut down a lot of the mental health centers. So you used to just have the homeless who were dope heads and hippies and lazy people and people who, were counting pennies instead of counting cash. Because you count pennies long enough, you'll just be out there counting them. That's all you'll have. But look it up, Ronald Reagan, let him loose. He cut the budget for a lot of mental health, and next thing you know, you had a dude out there who was just shooting up, who was busting a couple, cubes of crank into his nose. And then you had a dude out there who had no clue who he was, who was mentally unhealthy, schizophrenic. There's a University of Pennsylvania study. Let me find this right here. I put this down. Of 5,000 homeless people in New York City this study found that they cost the public $40,500 annually on average. Per person, that's crazy. And that's comprised of prison, shelter, emergency room, and psychiatric hospital costs. You'd think there would be a better way to just get those people this $40,500. Because if we get it directly to them, maybe it would change their element. And that was what makes you realize that a lot of it is mental health out there. That's a lot of mental health going on out there. And that's where it's scary. So if you're feeling uncomfortable about engaging, they say only about 30% of the people out there are drug addicts, alcoholics and drug addicts. So it's tough to know when to engage. I would just say trust your instincts, Chris. And I feel uncomfortable around the homeless. First of all, there's a million ways to keep a home. We got 2-story homes. We've got, what else? Mobile homes. Shit, you can, if you're almost homeless, you can take your home with you. Come on, home, let's go. I gotta go. Let's go. So I feel wiry around them. There's a lot of them out here in Los Angeles, and I feel a little troubled at times and uncertain. And I feel gross sometimes. I feel compassionate. I feel compassionate more than I used to. I feel angry, though, when it's the middle of the day and you've got a schizophrenic guy stuck in the crosswalk because there's something blinking at him, telling him to go this way or telling him to go that way. I feel like there should be a little bit more organization. I also feel upset in LA, like a stray animal. You see a stray Bichon on the street? You see a stray wiener dog? That little fucker's he'll be at a spa in an hour. Okay, he'll have a special college fund put away for him. People help them. You see a stray Daniel, a stray Larry, nobody. Never gets picked up, man. No bathed. So it's wild, man. It's wild. They say there's an old thing that says like you're only as good as your lowest common denominator, and how you treat your poorest and your troubled. And it's hectic, man. I went to an AA meeting at the VA yesterday, the Veterans Administration, and it's wild to see those guys and what they're going through. And I am hopeful that, some of this new administration will help take care of some of those guys. Whatever else they're doing. I've never trusted the politicians, any of them. I've always thought they were louts up to no good. When men who have served our country, whether for whatever reason they served, whether it was a criminal sentence or whatever, they have skin in the game. And I feel like we should try and help take care of that skin. But then it's also tough because you got people that start to live off the system. There's always two sides. But yeah, it's tough dealing with the homeless, man. It's tough dealing with the homeless. And the only way to overcome that fear is probably to interact with them and then develop a gauge as to where your interaction with the homeless is. Dance with the devil. Dance with the devil, and you'll learn how to two-step, in Satan's atmosphere. And that's the truth, man. Wouldn't it be here would be a cool new show. It's almost a Fear Factor type of show. Spoon a homeless person for a night. Would you let a real homeless dude spoon you all night? You're the little spoon, okay? You're the shrimp spoon or whatever, or the caviar spoon. Would you get any rest? I think we'd learn a lot about ourselves, our souls right then. That dude could be laying back behind you, eating your hair, contemplating murder, trying to smell your blood type through your scalp. This guy could be doing anything. So that's, that might be a unique show, because you'd learn a lot about yourself. You'd be able to gauge really quickly where you stand with the homeless in your comfort level. But that'd be a great way to overcome your fear of homelessness. If you do that, Mr. Christopher, please send us in a picture or a video of you out there spending time with your new friend. But yeah, there's a lot of homeless, man. And they're probably scared of us too. You have to think about that. It's they're human raccoons, a lot of them. And I'm not saying that to make fun of them, but they are more nature than they are man at a certain point. You can see it in their eyes sometimes. When you walk up on a homeless guy, you feel like you're walking up on a raccoon. Try it. Go surprise a couple raccoons by the trash. Now then go surprise a couple homeless guys outside of a trash area or a 7-Elevens. Write down the notes. Take notes and see the uniqueness, man. But what I do is I try to offer a basic food, a basic water, $1, couple of dollars, $5 if it's a woman sometimes, because I know that they need extra products and stuff, and I go on about my way, And I try to help someone who's maybe a little bit closer to me, who's a little bit more in a comfortable range to be helped at this time, Because you have to be able to help somebody who can also help themselves at times. But they shut down those mental health centers a long time ago, and you had homeless people out on the street. And that's another thing. If I see homeless people making out, I will call the police. I've done it countless times down in New Orleans. I see a couple of homeless people out there lip locking, touching pant tops, around the crotch area, being luscious, pressing their palms up against each other's crotch, or, nervous nerve endings, trying to get at each other's nerve endings around the crotch or the top of the legs. Because two homeless people making love, that makes a little homeless person immediately. And I told this officer one time on the phone, or the dispatcher, she's giving me all this lip about this and that. I'm like, lady, do you realize they have a child? That child is immediately homeless. So that's something I think where you want to get the authorities engaged, But yeah, but they're wild, man. A lot of homeless are like insects too, and I'll say that, and I don't mean that in a bad way, but they're like it's almost, we have that relationship that we do with insects. Some will sting you, some will suck your blood, Some of them flock to garbage or flock to, flock to sunlight or to a lantern. If you leave a lantern on. I remember when I lived in Charleston, we'd leave the porch light on, and in the morning there'd be a couple homeless people out there. Some of them are beautiful and they just land on your sleeve like a butterfly. So they're really, you're dealing with nature a lot of times, you know. I mean, some of them will lay eggs in the garbage, you know, or some of them will lay eggs in your grandmother's scalp, you know. I mean, you got the wild ones. You know, you got a lot going on, but I'm fascinated about how we relate to them. I really am, because it's very unique. I mean, I remember when I first moved out here to Los Angeles, I used to sleep in the McDonald's ball pit, and I've mentioned this story before. My buddy and I were looking for an apartment, and I would jump over at night. We didn't have a place to stay. We would jump over the fence at the McDonald's after midnight, and we would sleep there in the ball pit. And it's nasty. A lot of hair, dirt. They don't vacuum the bottom of them. They didn't used to. And this was 12 years ago. My friend Paul, we were just friends, nothing sensual. And we'd get in there and rest at night. And the third night we get in there, we're chatting and cutting up and, you know, not doing any jerking off, because if there's somebody else around, immediately you don't do it really, because there's some shame there, if you notice that. Sometimes you don't do it only because you don't want that shame. But the third night we're in there clowning around, and all of a sudden you hear, and you guys are quiet down. I'm trying to sleep. And there was a Korean man, I believe Korean. It's hard to understand Korean at night. But there was a Korean man sleeping on the slide in there. So we weren't even the first people to have this idea. But I thought that was interesting that people were using this place as a nighttime facility to rest. And the reason I thought of it was because when I was young, my sister was very ill when I was young. She had a rare liver disease that affects about 1 in maybe 500,000 children, where she was born and needed a liver transplant. And I remember the Ronald McDonald House was a special place where they would let parents come stay who didn't have any money, so they could spend time around their sick children while the children were under the care of the hospital facility. And my sister went there, and my mother would go stay in the different cities at the Ronald McDonald House while she was on these tours to visit the doctors. And that resonated in me. And I was like, oh, Ronald McDonald won't care if we catch a night's rest. And that's how we ended up there. Another interaction with the homeless that I've had was, I was doing a show at Loyola Marymount. This is about 9 years ago maybe. And it was myself and a friend. I may have told this story before. My memory is very short. And I was judging like an American Idol type of contest they had on their campus. And they had about maybe 800 students that were in attendance. And at the last minute, they called and said, can you bring a couple of friends who can be judges? Myself and a friend of mine were the MCs of the event, and we needed judges. So I hit the park near me and quickly interviewed a couple of the homeless or without homes, sans casas, and got 2 gentlemen. Rich, one of them's name was Rich, the irony there a little, but I can't remember the other guy's name. Rich. And we brought him with us. And we sat him in the judges' chairs, curtains open. And next thing you know, these 2 men who were laying in a park an hour earlier were at a $40,000 a year university judging the students' ability to entertain. And when we got to the end, there was a moment where we had to tally up the scores, right? So we're sitting there discussing the scores with them. We got the scores. We had a few more minutes, and one of the guys said, I don't think it was Rich, it was the other guy. He was more of a blonde. Rich was a brunette. And he said, can I perform something? And he got out there with a guitar that some other student had used to perform, and he played a song that he made up about Jack Daniels. And it was beautiful, man. Beautiful song. Got really violent at the end with some broken glass and stuff. And but the audience went crazy, man. And they cheered for him. And I thought that was a beautiful moment of how a homeless person can, a lot of it's just the environment you're in. It's just, you just need to be put into an environment for success. That's what that showed me. And that goes right back to, why I commend a lot of fathers and stepfathers out there whose children can be angry, troubled, violent, whatever. All it takes is that one moment where the environment for success that you've provided by providing them meals, a little bit of money, some structure, all it takes is that one moment for them to see that perspective or to feel comfortable, for them to begin to shine and really grasp onto who they are and to really start to light up the world with some skills or talents that they have. So again, I commend our fathers and stepfathers out there. All right, guys, let's go to some actual calls. I know we're call heavy this week. I was going to do a follow-up last week about addiction, but I'm going through voicemails and I didn't have a lot of calls about people that had struggled with it. I thought I'd had more. I'd addressed some of them. And when I get a buildup of them, I will address those. Thank you for anybody who's called in about that. Again, the hotline that men or women can hit, that number is 985-664-9503. I appreciate that call about the homeless and how we relate to them. I remember we used to go in the park and do fun games for people with homes and people without homes. Anybody compete against anyone. It was a show we were pitching called Street Games about 10 years ago. And I'll put one up this weekend on the YouTube. And we had a homeless guy doing cartwheels in a yogurt contest, doing yogurts. So really beautiful. But let's take another call here. We got a caller, and this guy's actually from Louisiana. Let's see what's going on here. Onward.
Theo, Michael from Baton Rouge.
Michael from Baton Rouge, thank you for calling, man. My family's all down there, and I'm happy to have you call today. Onward here, Michael.
Following up with an inquiry. So I know you talk a lot about laying off of the drinking, the masturbating, and the pornography. Myself, I've been able to, with you as an inspiration, to lay off of the drinking for 2 weeks and the masturbating pornography for at least one of those weeks. My question is,
2 weeks, and that's huge, man. I'm just going to say that because that shows that you have some control over it, And I just want you guys to remember that if you're struggling with addiction and struggling with knowing where you fit in those things, there's a questionnaire you can find out there that'll help you figure out if you suffer from alcoholism. And I'm not accusing you, Michael. I'm just saying that, that's inspiring that you're able to set parameters for yourself and follow those and live up to those. But let's hear your inquiry here. Onward.
I've been drinking a lot of water, eating healthy, and having these thick stream pleasurable pisses. Is that okay as a 27-year-old male with cutting out alcohol and masturbating to have these pleasurable thick stream pisses? Advise me. So please let me know. We'll see you in Addison because I live out here in Dallas. So see you at the Improv, Theo.
Oh, right on, brother. Thank you. I'm excited to see you, man. So you're having thick stream urine, and urine, I'm going to say it right now, it's a byproduct of being human. We know that, right? Other things have other byproducts. A car leaks gasoline sometimes, or can leak, it can leak water. It can leak, antifreeze fluid. The sun leaks heat, we leak urine. That's a byproduct. And is it, you're cut, oh Christ, sorry. You're cutting off of, you're cutting off of alcohol and you're eating healthy and you're having thicker urine. I think that's fine, man. I grew up around a boy who would piss thick, and this fella could, thick, dude. Almost like like he was like a pastry chef or something, with that little frosting gun, this guy just really was, just spouting hot cream almost. And he might have had an infection. He was too young for a sexual infection, but I'm no doctor and I was young. But he wasn't very bright, and I bet he was probably eating dangerous things that he probably wasn't even supposed to be eating, things that, were just ignorant snacks, But I remember one time we got a sheet. It was so interesting to us. We got a sheet and held it out. Me and my boy Danny, who was born with a deficiency, he had a soft neck, a very limp neck, but we would hold this bed sheet out and we had this boy piss out into it. And into this stretched bed sheet, and the sheet almost caught this, I don't want to say it was like a butter, but it was like a meringue almost that was left by this boy's urine. And I thought that at the time, what did I think? I was a little scared for him, but he didn't look sick. His eyes were clear, I just thought, maybe he just shouldn't be eating certain things and he was eating them, and I don't know if in the future, maybe we'll be able to actually piss a product that we can use. This actually makes me think about the future. If in the future there, Michael, you might be onto something. Because what if in the future we could feed you 6 eggs, 4 limes, a couple lemons, maybe some vanilla extract, and we could get you to, make a topping for a couple petit fours or a couple of, pineapple cakes, and you could urinate something that's useful. That might be something that's the future holds biologically for a lot of humans, is an edible byproduct, because it really almost is ridiculous that we've had our digestive tracts for this long in history. We have this much medical advancement. We can put a heart into somebody else. We could get my sister a new liver. She got it when she was 14 years old out there at University of Arizona Hospital. They were one of the first places to do it. She was like one of the first 20 people to get it, especially a child. But to think that we're not even using our own digestive tracts as a kitchen of sorts, it's interesting, man. But I mean, if you feel comfortable and you're fine, then you're probably fine. I mean, this boy I remember, what was his name? Ravis? Maybe Ravis, kind of Travis, but without the T. And Ravis would piss this. It was a meringue almost. And we didn't eat it, but it looked meringue, But I think it would be neat if in the future, somebody could buy some salmon and then next thing some recipe pisser shows up and just drops a beautiful demi-glaze on it, based solely on whatever that person had eaten in that day. And I think that that's spectacular to think about. And I'm thinking you'll probably face an issue if it gets too thick, it's probably not going to come out. And at that point that's going to be troublesome. Because I've heard of people trying to pass a stone. I've never heard of somebody trying to pass, a damn quart of frosting. So I don't know what the pain level could be there, but good luck with that, man. I appreciate you calling in about it. And good luck to getting back to a decent stream or, at least evolving into a quality stream that's of use. But I appreciate that, man. All right, let's crack into one more call here. Here we go. Let's hit this right here. We've been talking about a lot of female breadwinners, and a lot of men had called in saying their wives were the breadwinners and helping us get into that world. And it's a lot going on because you cannot feel like a man. You cannot feel like a man. And it's something that a lot of people are like, well, this isn't really going to happen, and it's just happening statistically, and that's fine if you feel that way. It's fine if I feel that way. But the reality is that a lot of children are growing up in homes where the mother is the breadwinner. A lot of our friends, our confidants, a lot of fellow men out there, and women and lesbian women and hardy women, strong, virile women who just want to just stretch their vagina out into a cock and just live hard. These people are no longer the breadwinners. So it's a real thing for some people. And I had some calls about that. Let's hit this one right here.
Hey, Theo. I was just calling about the whole thing about as far as women kind of taking control of the household. And I'm in that situation right now.
All right, this gentleman said he's in that situation right now. His woman is taking control of the household.
And I am an artist.
He's an artist, he said. That could mean anything, but we're going to take his word for it. Onward, brother.
And I enjoy my time. Take care of the little guy at the house. It's great. The only bad thing about it is a man feels like he needs to provide for his family. It's hard to deal with at first. I had previous problems with pills and heroin for about 15 years, and I had been off that for about a year. But when I got set in this situation where I got a DUI.
Okay, so he'd had addiction problems, sharing for about 15 years, and I appreciate you sharing that with me, Bud, openly. Thank you for sharing that. He'd had those problems. Then he got into this situation. He was clean. He got into this situation where he was not the breadwinner, where this woman was, and it sounds like he had a relapse of sorts. Onward.
Lost my job. Lady took control of the whole situation. We just got a house, and we're in the best place we are now than we've ever been. So, idle hands are the devil's playground.
He said idle hands are the devil's playground there. I know this call's a little tough to hear. Sorry about that. Idle hands are the devil's playground. That's very true. And it sounds like maybe at first, when he got into the home with the wife and she was making the loot, that he had these idle hands. Onward.
So try not to sit around too much, Just as long as I'm doing something, I'm doing good. No, it's working out great as far as my situation right now. We got a little guy, he's 4 years old, taking over the daddy control. His father passed away when he was 1, and just been doing it. And it's been an experience that I love every moment of it. I don't know if you can give me a little insight, what you feel as far if you were put in that situation.
Awesome, man. I appreciate you sharing that. It warms my heart, man, to know that there was a 1-year-old whose father passed away and you took over. And it warms my heart to know that you're out there being open about your struggles, man. Because the shame of having struggles and being unable to share them, there's something unnecessary there. And maybe we live in a world that judges too much, but if we can't look at each other and know what each other's going through, man, we're gonna have a really tough time relating to each other, I feel. So I really appreciate you sharing that. I commend you, man. Happy Father's Day to you. I don't know if you're 4-year-old. I don't know if it's 4 or 5. You said the little guy there now, but it sounds like he's gonna grow up with an opportunity to have a 2-parent home there, and that's beautiful, man. That warms my heart, man. So thank you for sharing. I was going to answer some of your question, but there's a lot of stuff I can't relate to there. But I feel pretty fortunate this week. I got another call from a house husband. I'll call this gentleman and I'm going to call it that. And he's going to answer it for you. So I could throw you some guidance. I could throw you some thoughts, some basic life suggestions. I just commend you for being a good father, man, and for picking up the slack where fate, dropped the ball by taking that child's biological father. I really commend you, man. That's a beautiful thing. I want to have your question answered. I think this guy's call answered it up for me a little bit better than I could. So let's play that here. Here we go.
Hey, Theo. This is Billy out in California. My wife's been a breadwinner for 16 years, and I thought I could give you a little insight from behind the lines on that.
Behind enemy lines there, huh? His wife has been a breadwinner for 16 years. This is Billy in California. Onward.
When I met her, I was a blue-collar guy, a former Navy CB, always in construction, always a hands-on type dude. And she was in college. She was a starving college student, the typical eating ramen noodles and all that stuff. And I used to pay for everything and take her out to nice places and pay her bills and all that stuff. But
okay, so you put in some work there, it sounds like, by being the fiscal half. Continue, please.
But when she graduated, she became a naval officer, and everything switched almost immediately. So it's a real blow to your ego because, I'm an independent person. I don't like relying on anybody. But over the years, I've learned that the way to deal with it best, you just got to own it, man. I'm not a house husband. I'm a trophy husband. And, you got to up your man game. You got to take the traditional values of men 50 years ago and apply it to your house and apply it to your marriage. Because believe it or not, career women don't want a wife and they don't want, a house bitch. They want a man.
Dang. You heard him right there. They don't want a house bitch. You know, I'm a trophy husband. You got to embrace it. That's what he's saying. And I love that, man. And I know that that first caller, you're asking for my suggestions, what I would do in that place. I would hope that I would have the attitude of this gentleman here, this second caller about this topic. I would hope that I would have this attitude, you know, and because I didn't really have an answer. But this is where I would get my answer from somebody else, somebody who knows. Onward. I want to hear more.
And they're not trying to be men. They want to be treated like ladies, and maybe even more so because they're, you know, dealing with that role every day. So, you know, my advice, if anybody's going to go through this, is, you know, just own it and up your game, man. You know, be the man that your dad was 60 years ago, minus the job. You know, fix the cars, know how to fix the house, the sink. You know, bend your wife over the sink every once in a while. She likes that kind of stuff.
Dang, dude, doing some plumbing, huh? A little bit of rotor-rooter activity right there, boy. Yeah, man, people's eating ass out there by their sinks and everything, and he's celebrating out there, but I like it. You know, this gentleman, you can hear in his voice, he's got that bravado about being a man still. You know? You don't have to not be a man just because the income's coming from somewhere else, that we still have a responsibility. This is what I needed to hear, man. This is awesome. Let's continue on a little more here.
You know, treat her like a lady, but you sit at the head of the table. You tell the kids, you know, when you have kids, it's important. You got to be a dad. You can't just be, you don't want two moms. Just because you're not bringing in all the bacon, you can still sit at the head of the table, lead prayer. You know, be the man. That's what women want. And, you know, if you find yourself in this situation, you know, it's going to fuck with you. It's going to make your ego, you know, you're going to get depressed about it. But, you know, just own it. And, you know, it's just the way it is today. But instead of trying to be a modern man, you know, you need to be a traditional man. And that'll help you out in the long run. Anyway, Theo, love the show. If you're going to grow that mullet out, you better do it right. That shit's not a novelty, son.
Dang.
It's a lifestyle.
Dang. That dude's dropping hair knowledge, a little bit of follicle knowledgeable at the end, dude. I respect that. And I appreciate that. I appreciate that call, Billy. And I just think that's it's a keen attitude. It's a keen attitude. He's been through it. He said there was a period of depression, that you have to make that choice, how to do it, to learn to be the man. You know, you just need to man up. And that's something we all have to remember, you know, is just to get up each day and take care of our responsibilities. And especially in this instance, you know, we get this idea that, oh, women are going to be the breadwinners. Oh, God, now I'm, you know, what am I supposed to wear? Because, look, trust me, for that first year, I might hit that depression, you know? I might put on that moo-moo and be having chocolate snacks and having, you know, men come to the house and, you know, bring me cakes and bring me wine or whatever, you know, fancy stuff. I might go get my hair done once every other week, you know, and be living like that, living wild, you know, in this acting out through some type of depression because I'm not the breadwinner, you know, and wearing big robes and big skirts and, you know, not even doing the laundry and hiring some little Filipino guy or Filipino family to come and do the laundry. But when it comes down to it, if that's the route I'm going to take, then that's going to be a specific, lonely, cold road after a couple of months. After you've seen every episode of Leave It to Beaver on TV Land, or you ordered all the Jenny Jones DVDs, you know, and watched Rude Jude get in there and comment on everything. You're going to lose a little bit of steam there. You're going to lose who you are. And he's saying we can still be a man. We can still be a man. And I need to hear it, man. I'm still growing up, you know, and I'm afraid to grow up sometimes. And it's tough, man. It's not easy. And I guess no one's saying it is easy, you know, but at least we got each other, you know. We got other fathers stopping in and pulling the guard for other fathers that have passed away. We got stepfathers growing out mustaches and giving some, you know, angry feminist child that he doesn't even agree with, but he's paying for her sandwiches and paying for her, special kits of her Black Panther, backpack patches and iron-on patches and, free Cuba patches and stuff that she's buying in the mail. You got fathers supporting children. You got fathers pulling their weight. And you got fathers out there who are struggling, dealing with addiction, but putting it away and getting back on the horse and being a man. And it's interesting because that really doesn't matter where the bread's coming in there, does it? But it does matter, where the spine comes in, where the backbone shows up. And some of these men are doing that. And I needed to hear it, man. I appreciate it. I appreciate the calls this week, man. If you guys have an issue or anything that I can share, if I can match you up with somebody else who just would be able to inspire us better than me, I'm happy to do that on this past weekend. Let me know what you think about Patreon. Hit the TheoVon.com store. Get you a Got Hamps t-shirt. Cop that album. That album is out there, man. 30-pound bag of hamster bones. You can get it. Or the secondary album, which is my early work, which is, it's called Musket Fire. It's early satire. You can grab that out there as well. I'll see you guys in New York this weekend. I'll see you in Nashville in a few weeks. Come out and show some love. I promise you that the live show is good, man. I work really hard at my craft, and I love what I do. And honestly, man, there's some days where I think I could be good at this, and I feel good today, and I appreciate it, man. You guys calling and keeping me company helped. This was honestly the best part of my weekend, man. So you guys take care. I'm going to listen to some Celebrate Again on the way out. This is from Spencer Grau, and I'll put a link to their music you can check out. And thank you guys for everything. I'll talk to you guys soon. Be good to yourselves, because I bet you probably deserve it.
Celebrate living, celebrate misery. You know that soon we're gonna die. Let's have some fun while we all die. Celebrate dark days, celebrate all your pain. Exercised. Let's have some fun while we all die.
All right, y'all be good out there, man. Love you guys. See you on the road. See you soon. Hit the hotline if you have anything to say, and I appreciate you. Let me know your thoughts. You can check this on iTunes. You can watch it on YouTube. It'll come out later on in the day. Thank you, man. I needed you guys today, and I appreciate it. Thank you guys very, very much, man. Damn, it's hot as hell in here. Praise God, boy. Look at that. Damn, look at that pineapple hangout off the back of this haircut. God, how long could this get? Anything is possible.